For 3 seasons, 7 castaways made us laugh every week on a tiny tropical island. But while Gilligan's Island was pure escapist fun on our TV screens, the real lives of these beloved actors were far more complex than anyone realized. Behind those iconic characters were real people facing struggles that would challenge anyone, from the crushing weight of typecasting to personal battles that Hollywood preferred to keep quiet. The truth is, fame from Gilligan's Island was both a blessing and a burden that followed these performers for the rest of their lives. Some found ways to thrive beyond the lagoon, while others discovered that leaving the island was harder than they ever imagined. Few TV shows have left a mark quite like Gilligan's Island. This quirky 1960s sitcom about 7 castaways stranded on a deserted island became an instant classic and has remained a cultural touchstone for generations. But here's the story behind the story. While the show brought joy to millions of families, it created unexpected challenges for its stars that lasted long after the final episode aired. Some struggled with being forever identified with their island characters, while others found creative ways to build lasting careers beyond the coconut palms. Today, we're sharing the complete stories of these 7 remarkable performers, their triumphs, their struggles, and how they each handled the unique experience of being part of television history. Let's start with the heart of the show, Bob Denver as Gilligan. And his story reveals both the magic and the challenges of television stardom. Bob Denver was already known for his role as Maynard G. Krebs on The Many Loves of Dobie Gillis, but Gilligan's Island catapulted him into TV stardom. What seemed like a blessing would become his curse. Here's the reality that many fans didn't know. Bob Denver became so closely identified with Gilligan that it became both his greatest asset and his biggest professional challenge. Casting directors had trouble seeing past that sailor hat and red shirt. When Denver auditioned for dramatic roles or different types of comedy, producers would often say, "We just see Gilligan." This wasn't unusual for actors from hit shows, but it was particularly intense for Denver because Gilligan was such a specific, memorable character. Behind the scenes, Denver dealt with this pressure in different ways throughout his career. He found solace in teaching drama classes and working in smaller theater productions where he could explore different roles. In later interviews, Denver spoke honestly about the double-edged nature of his fame. He was grateful for Gilligan. The character had given him financial security and made him beloved by multiple generations. But he also acknowledged the professional limitations it created. Gilligan opened doors and closed doors at the same time, he once reflected. Denver continued working steadily, appeared at fan conventions where he genuinely enjoyed meeting people, and found meaning in teaching. He passed away in 2005, leaving behind a legacy that brought laughter to millions and showed how one character could define an entire career. Alan Hale Jr. was the heart and soul of the island as the lovable skipper, but his story reveals a man who carried burdens heavier than any anchor. Hale was a show business legacy, the son of character actor Alan Hale Sr., and he'd been working steadily in Hollywood for years before the island. He was a skilled actor who could handle drama, comedy, and action with equal skill. But like his fellow castaways, the skipper's cap became a professional prison. Here's what made Alan's situation particularly challenging. He was physically typecast as well as character typecast. That distinctive build, that booming voice, that larger-than-life personality, Hollywood couldn't see past any of it. After the show ended, he found himself competing for the same types of jolly big guy roles over and over again. But Alan Hale Jr. had something that sustained him through the lean years, an unshakable optimism that seemed to mirror his character. He opened a restaurant called the Lobster Barrel in West Hollywood, where he would often greet customers personally. Fans would come not just for the seafood, but for the chance to meet the skipper in person. What's remarkable is how genuinely Hale seemed to enjoy connecting with people. Unlike some actors who resent being associated with a single role, Hale embraced it. He understood that he'd been part of something that brought pure joy to families, and he never lost sight of that gift. Hale continued working in television and films throughout the 1970s and 80s, often in guest roles that played to his established persona. He passed away in 1990, but those who knew him say he remained that same warm, generous person right until the end. In many ways, Alan Hale Jr. and the skipper were the same man, and maybe that's why he handled the typecasting better than most. Jim Bakus brought Thurston Howell III to life with his distinctive voice and impeccable comedic timing. But Bakus had something his fellow castaways didn't. A secret weapon that kept his career thriving long after the island. You see, Bakus was already famous as the voice of Mr. Magoo, and voice acting became his professional lifeline. While many of his castmates struggled with typecasting, Bakus could step behind a microphone and become completely different characters. It was a brilliant career strategy, really. Audiences couldn't see his face, so they couldn't mentally trap him as just Thurston Howell. This versatility served him well throughout the 1970s and 80s. Bakus continued working in both live action and voice roles, building a career that stretched far beyond any single character. He understood something important about show business. Diversification was key to longevity. But even Bakus faced challenges. In his later years, he developed Parkinson's disease, which gradually stole away that distinctive voice that had made him famous. He continued working as long as he could, but watching such a vibrant performer slowly lose his greatest gift was heartbreaking for those who knew him. Jim passed away in 1989, but he managed something rare. He escaped the island curse through sheer versatility and talent. Natalie Schaefer played the elegant Mrs. Howell with such sophistication that many viewers assumed she was similar to her wealthy character in real life. The reality was more complicated. Before Gilligan's Island, Schaefer had built a respectable career on Broadway and in films. She was a serious actress who initially took the Mrs. Howell role, thinking the show would last maybe one season. In a move that proved surprisingly wise, she negotiated to keep all her characters' elaborate costumes. Not because she expected the show to become a phenomenon, but because she figured they'd be the only thing of value she'd get from the experience. Those costumes later became collector's items worth considerable money as the show gained popularity in syndication. However, like many actors of her generation, Schaefer faced financial challenges in her later years. Some poor investment decisions and the changing landscape of television work made her final decades more financially stressful than her earlier success might have suggested. She continued working in television and theater, partly because she loved performing, but also because she needed the income. Natalie passed away in 1991, and while she's remembered for bringing elegance to the island, her final years were a stark contrast to the luxury her character enjoyed. Russell Johnson was the brainy, resourceful professor, always ready with a scientific solution to any island crisis. Ironically, he couldn't engineer a solution to his career challenges. Johnson faced the same typecasting nightmare as his fellow castaways. Here's a man with serious acting credentials. He'd appeared in acclaimed films and dramatic TV shows before the island, but after Gilligan's Island, he was forever the professor. What's particularly tragic is that Johnson was extremely intelligent in real life, with a background in acting and a sharp mind for business. Yet Hollywood could only see him as the guy who could make a radio out of coconuts but somehow couldn't fix a boat. Johnson handled it better than most of his castmates. He embraced fan events and conventions, finding joy in the connection with audiences. He also supported various charity efforts and community projects, using his fame for good even when Hollywood wouldn't give him serious work. Russell passed away in 2014, beloved by fans but never fully recognized for his range as an actor. Tina Louise brought glamour and sophistication to the island as Ginger Grant, the movie star, but her relationship with the show was complicated from the very beginning. Louise was a serious actress with Broadway credits and Hollywood ambitions when she signed on for what she thought would be a sophisticated ensemble comedy. She believed the show would focus equally on all the characters and showcase her dramatic range. Instead, she found herself playing second fiddle to Gilligan's slapstick antics and reduced to what she felt were one-dimensional, glamour girl moments. Here's the bitter irony. While Ginger made Tina Louise a household name, it also became the role that haunted her most. Louise felt the character undermined her credibility as a serious actress. She watched as casting directors could only see her as the sultry movie star, not the accomplished performer she'd worked years to become. Unlike her castmates, Louise made a conscious decision to distance herself from the show once it ended. She rarely appeared at reunions or fan events, and turned down multiple offers for Gilligan's Island reunion specials and movies. While this preserved her artistic integrity, it also meant she missed out on the financial benefits that came with embracing the show's enduring popularity. Louise continued working steadily in television, film, and theater, often taking roles that deliberately contrasted with Ginger's glamorous image. She proved she could handle complex dramatic material, but the shadow of those 3 seasons on the island followed her everywhere. In many ways, Tina Louise's story represents the flip side of typecasting. Sometimes the very success that makes you famous can feel like a betrayal of everything you worked to achieve. Today, at 91, Tina Louise remains the last surviving member of the Gilligan's Island cast. A bittersweet distinction that makes her both a living link to television history and a reminder of all the talented performers we've lost along the way. And finally, Dawn Wells, the sweet and wholesome Mary and Summers. Her story might be the most shocking of all. Dawn faced something her fellow castaways didn't. She had to compete with one of TV's most iconic sex symbols, Ginger, played by Tina Louise. While Ginger got the glamour, Mary and got the relatability. But in Hollywood, relatability doesn't always pay the bills. Here's what's heartbreaking. Dawn Wells filed for bankruptcy in her later years. The woman who played America's sweetheart was struggling to make ends meet, dealing with tax problems and financial stress that would have broken a lesser person. But Dawn's story also shows incredible resilience. She stayed connected with fans throughout her life, often appearing at conventions and events where people would light up just seeing her. She worked behind the scenes in theater and education, touching lives in ways that went far beyond entertainment. Even more touching, when news of her financial troubles became public, fans rallied around her. They raised money, bought her merchandise, and showed the kind of genuine affection that proves Mary Ann's impact went far beyond a TV screen. Dawn passed away in 2020 during the pandemic, and the outpouring of love from fans worldwide proved that while Hollywood might have undervalued her, the public never did. But here's the question that haunts Hollywood insiders. Was there really a Gilligan's Island curse? Think about it. A show about people trapped on an island somehow trapped its cast in their roles for life. Bob Denver battled addiction and depression. Natalie Schaefer faced financial ruin. Dawn Wells went bankrupt. Even Tina Louise, who played Ginger, famously distanced herself from the show because she felt it damaged her serious acting career. Maybe it wasn't a supernatural curse, but rather the curse of being too successful in roles that were too specific, too memorable, too perfect. They created characters so beloved that audiences couldn't imagine them as anyone else. The cast of Gilligan's Island may have been stranded on a fictional island, but in many ways, they never truly escaped. Their legacies are complicated, filled with joy and laughter, but also struggle and heartbreak. They gave us something precious, pure, innocent entertainment in a world that was rapidly becoming more complex and cynical. And perhaps that's worth celebrating, even as we acknowledge the price they paid. From laughter and friendship to struggles and triumphs, their stories remind us that behind every smile on our TV screens is a real person with real challenges. The golden era of television came with golden handcuffs that some stars wore for life. Thank you for taking this eye-opening journey with Hollywood Unforgotten, where we dig deeper than the headlines and uncover the stories that shaped the stars we thought we knew. If you grew up watching these lovable castaways, drop a comment below and share your favorite memory of Gilligan's Island. If you loved uncovering these hidden stories, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a moment of the magic. Remember, Hollywood's past is full of legends, and here, they live on. See you in the next story.